The station was called Helix 9, a place where 1,000 species passed each other every day. Bright lights curved along white walls. Strange languages mixed in the air, and humans were always noticed last. Ethan Cole walked through the main transit ring with a small cargo case in his hand. His steps calm, his eyes curious. He had learned long ago that moving too fast in alien space made others nervous. Humans were new to the galactic stage, not weak, but seen that way. Most races were taller, stronger, louder, and far more confident. Humans were labeled as observers, helpers, and quiet workers. Ethan did not mind. He liked watching. He liked learning. He liked seeing how different life could be. The station was crowded that cycle. Delegates from warrior clans, traders from crystal worlds, nobles wrapped in metal and silk, tails, wings, and armor brushed past each other. Ethan slowed his pace near the central garden path. White stone arches rose overhead, artificial sunlight warmed the air. Tall alien palms swayed gently. That was when it happened. He felt something soft under his boot, followed by a sharp intake of breath that was not human. Ethan froze. His heart dropped. He slowly lifted his foot. Beneath him was a long, pale green tail, smooth and powerful, ending in a fin-like curve. The crowd reacted instantly. Voices stopped. Movement ceased. Even the station hum felt quieter. Ethan swallowed. He turned his eyes upward. The alien woman stood taller than him, her skin a calm shade of green. Her white braided hair framed her face like flowing stone. Silver armor covered her body, elegant and deadly at the same time. Her golden eyes locked onto him, unreadable, ancient. Ethan opened his mouth. "I am sorry," he began, his voice low and respectful. She did not shout. She did not strike him. She did not reach for a weapon. Instead, she turned fully toward him. Slowly, every movement controlled. Her presence alone made nearby guards tense. The station went silent. Then she spoke, her voice clear and steady. "Do you want to marry me, human?" For a moment, Ethan thought he misheard. A few aliens gasped. Others stepped back. Some lowered their heads. Armed guards shifted their stance. Ethan blinked, his brain struggling to catch up. He looked around, expecting laughter, anger, something that made sense. "Marry," he repeated softly, confused. The alien woman nodded once, her expression serious, not playful, not mocking. "You touched my tail in public," she said. "The claim has been made." Ethan felt the blood drain from his face. He had studied basic alien customs, but nothing had prepared him for this. "I did not mean to," he said quickly. "It was an accident." Her eyes did not soften, but they did not harden either. "Intent does not erase law," she replied. Whispers spread through the crowd like a wave. Ethan caught fragments of words he barely understood. Honor, bond, shame, war. A tall alien guard stepped forward, his armor heavy and dark. "This human is ignorant," the guard said. "The fault is shared." The woman raised one hand, and the guard stepped back immediately. The words were spoken. She said calmly, "The moment is recorded." A low tone echoed through the station. Security lights shifted from white to amber. Ethan realized this was no small misunderstanding. This was something deep, something dangerous. He stood very still, his hands open, his posture respectful. Every human instinct told him not to run around him. Dozens of eyes watched, judging, measuring, waiting. The alien woman studied him closely now, as if seeing him for the first time, not as a species, but as a person. "You may refuse," she said, her voice lower, "but know that refusal carries weight." Ethan's thoughts raced. Marriage was a word with power even among humans. Here it sounded like a trigger for something much larger. Before he could speak, again armed escorts moved in, not rough but firm, forming a circle around them both. "By station law," an automated voice announced, "all bonded claims must be reviewed." The crowd slowly began to move again, but the space around Ethan and the alien woman stayed clear, as if no one wanted to stand too close to fate. As they were guided toward a secure hall, Ethan glanced at her. "Why me?" he asked quietly. She met his gaze, her expression unreadable. "Because you did not pull your foot away in fear," she said. "And because you look at us as equals?" That answer unsettled him more than the question as the doors closed behind them. Ethan realized one simple mistake had just changed his life, and somewhere deep inside, He felt that this moment would change far more than just his own future. Before the story continues, if you enjoy human strength, strange worlds, and moments where one choice changes everything, please consider subscribing to this channel. Your support helps these stories reach more listeners. The lights dimmed, and the first judgment of the claim was about to begin. The secure hall was colder than the garden path. Smooth metal walls curved upward, lights glowed soft blue, and the air carried a quiet pressure that made even strong beings lower their voices. Ethan stood in the center of the room, hands relaxed at his sides. Guards formed a wide circle around him and the alien woman, none of them pointing weapons, yet all of them ready. A raised platform unfolded from the floor, symbols of law and clan glowing along its edge. "This chamber records truth," an automated voice announced. "False words carry penalty." Ethan felt his throat tighten. He had faced danger before, but never judgment from an entire species. The alien woman stepped forward, her armor catching the light. Her tail moved slowly behind her. "No longer hidden, no longer ignored. My name is Salith of the Varelian Highline," she said, her voice calm. "Daughter of the Third Crest, sworn protector of the eastern trade paths." A ripple of reaction passed through the guards. Ethan noticed the shift immediately. She was not just any citizen, she was important, powerful. Ethan swallowed. "And this human," she continued, "is Ethan Cole, registered worker of the Terran Alliance, assigned to logistics support." The contrast felt sharp: noble warrior and simple human worker. The room seemed to lean toward her side. A council member appeared. As a hologram above the platform, tall, thin, with layered eyes that glowed faintly. "State the claim," the council voice commanded. Salith did not hesitate. "The human made physical contact with my tail in a public space. The contact was uninterrupted, witnessed, and unchallenged. According to Varelian law, this forms a bonding claim." Ethan felt a slow chill spread through his chest. He understood now that this was real. Deeply real. The council paused, then spoke again. "Human, do you deny the contact?" "No," Ethan answered honestly. "I stepped on her tail. It was an accident." "Intent noted," the council replied. "Intent irrelevant." Murmurs rose again. Ethan clenched his jaw. He forced himself to stay calm. Panic would only confirm every weakness they believed humans had. Another hologram joined the first, broader, armored, marked with clan sigils. "A Varelian noble bound to a human," the second voice said. "This sets precedent." Salith lifted her chin slightly. "Law is law," she said. "If it is broken for convenience, it is broken forever." The chamber grew heavier. Ethan could feel the tension like gravity. The first council member turned its attention back to Ethan. "Human," it said, "you may refuse the bond?" Ethan felt a flicker of relief. "But refusal carries consequence," the voice continued. "Public rejection brings dishonor upon the claimant. Dishonor among the Varelian often demands blood resolution." Ethan's relief vanished instantly. "Blood resolution," he repeated. Quietly, Salith did not look at him, but her tail slowed, its movement careful. "Controlled? Clan challenge," she said, "or exile?" "Depending on council ruling." Ethan's mind raced. Refuse and she could lose everything, accept, and his life would no longer belong only to him. The council studied him, measuring his silence. "You have 24 standard hours to decide." The first voice said, "Until then, both parties remain under protection." A soft field of light shimmered around them. Not a cage, but a boundary. Ethan finally turned to Salith, lowering his voice. "You could have said nothing," he said. "You could have punished me quietly." She met his eyes, her gaze steady. "I could not," she replied. "The law binds me as much as you." He searched her face for anger, regret, manipulation, but found none, only resolve. "Do you want this?" he asked, the question raw, honest. Salith paused, just long enough for the moment to feel real. "I accept what law and fate place before me," she said, "but I will not force fear upon you." That answer confused him more than a threat would have, as guards escorted them to separate quarters. Ethan noticed something else, the way other aliens watched him now, not with dismissal but with caution. In his assigned room, the door sealed softly behind him. The walls adjusted to human comfort, a small courtesy. Ethan sat down slowly, his hands shaking for the first time. He had stepped on a tail, and now entire clans waited on his choice. Across the station, Salith stood alone in her own chamber. Her armor removed, her tail resting still against the floor, she looked at her reflection in the polished wall, and for the first time since the claim, her calm expression cracked, just slightly. Both of them understood the same truth now, the next decision would not only bind two lives, it would test the place of humans in a galaxy that never expected them to matter. Ethan did not sleep. The room was quiet, too quiet. Soft light glowed along the walls, but his mind refused to rest. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw green skin, golden eyes, and heard the words again. "Do you want to marry me?" He sat on the edge of the resting platform, hands clasped together, trying to understand how a single step had placed him at the center of something ancient and dangerous. On the other side of the station, Salith stood near a wide viewing window. Stars drifted. Slowly beyond the glass, her reflection stared back at her. Proud posture, controlled breathing, a warrior trained never to hesitate. Yet inside her chest, something felt unsteady. She had faced war beasts, enemy fleets, and political trials without fear. But this moment felt different, personal in a way. She had never allowed herself to experience. A soft chime echoed in Ethan's room. "Visitor request," the station voice announced. Ethan straightened instantly. "Who?" he asked. "Salith of the Varelian High Line." The voice replied. His heart skipped. He hesitated for only a second, then nodded. "Allow." The door slid open silently. Salith entered alone, without armor, without guards. She wore a simple white garment that marked neutrality. Her tail moved slowly behind her, relaxed but alert. They stood facing each other in silence, the distance between them heavy with unspoken weight. "I asked permission to speak freely," she said, her voice lower than before. Less formal, Ethan nodded. "I am listening." She stepped closer, not too close, respectful of his space. "You deserve truth." Salith said, "Not only law." Ethan let out a slow breath. "Then tell me," she turned slightly, looking at the stars instead of him. "My people are strong," she began. "We are born into rank, trained for duty, taught that emotion is weakness." Her tail curled gently. "We marry for alliance. For bloodlines, for power," she continued. "Choice is rare, affection is discouraged." Ethan listened carefully. He said nothing, afraid to break the moment. "I have refused 3 bond offers," she said. Each refusal brought challenge. Each challenge cost lives. Ethan's eyes widened slightly. "They called me cold," she went on. "They said I was broken." She finally looked at him, her golden eyes steady but open. "Then I saw you, Ethan." Frowned, confused. "You helped a wounded traitor while others walked past." She said, "You spoke gently to a child of the glass species when guards grew impatient." He remembered those moments, small things, things he never thought mattered. "You look at us without hunger for power," she said. "Without fear." She paused, her voice softening. "When your foot touched my tail, the law spoke first," she admitted. But something else followed. Ethan swallowed. "What?" he asked. "Relief," she said quietly. The word hung between them, unexpected. "For the first time," she continued, "fate chose for me, and it chose someone who did not see me as a prize." Ethan leaned back slightly, overwhelmed. "I am not a hero," he said honestly. "I am not strong like your people." Salith tilted her head, studying him. "You stood still when warriors froze." She replied, "You did not lie, you did not beg, you did not run." Her tail lifted slightly, then settled again. "That is strength," she said. Silence filled the room again, deeper now, heavier. Ethan looked down at his hands, then back at her. "If I say yes," he said slowly, "I change your life." "Yes," she agreed. "If I say no," he continued, "I destroy it." Her jaw tightened, just for a moment. "Yes," she said again. Ethan stood up, pacing once, then stopping in front of her. "You barely know me," he said. Salith met his gaze, unflinching. "Neither do you know me," she replied. "Yet here we stand." A sudden vibration ran through the floor. Distant, controlled, but real. Salith's eyes sharpened instantly. "That was not scheduled," she said. An alert tone echoed through the room. Softer than an alarm, but urgent. "Security movement detected." The station voice announced. Ethan felt tension spike in his chest. "Is that because of me?" he asked. Seelith's tail stiffened slightly. "Because of what you represent," she said. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Some believe this bond must never happen." Ethan looked at her, truly looked at her. Not as an alien, not as a noble, but as someone standing alone against tradition. In that moment he felt something shift inside him. The choice was no longer about law or fear or survival. It was about whether humans would always step back or finally stand their ground. And outside the room, unseen eyes were already moving, preparing to force the decision before Ethan could make it himself. The station changed after that meeting, not in sound or light, but in feeling. The air seemed tighter, conversations quieter, and every corridor felt watched. Ethan noticed it first when 2 guards appeared outside his door. Not station security, but Varelian warriors. Their armor marked with high clan symbols. "They are not here to harm you," the station voice informed him. "They are here to ensure you remain alive." That sentence did not bring comfort across Helix 9. Information spread faster than ships could travel. A Varelian noble bonded by law to a human. A worker, an outsider. For many species, it was scandal. For others, it was fear, and for a few, it was opportunity. In the upper council ring, elders gathered in projection chambers, their forms flickering across vast distances. A human cannot hold a Varelian bond, one voice argued, sharp and clipped. "It weakens the line. It strengthens the law." Another replied, "If law bends for pride, it breaks for power." On a distant world, Varelian clan leaders watched the recordings. Again and again, the moment Ethan froze instead of fleeing. The moment Seilith spoke the claim, some saw insult, others saw destiny. Seilith stood before her own council, her posture perfect, her voice controlled, but her tail betrayed her tension with slow, careful movement. "You risk everything." An elder warned. "For a human who may refuse, I risk nothing," Seilith answered. "I uphold law." "And if he accepts?" another voice asked. "Do you believe the galaxy will follow?" Seilith did not answer immediately. "I believe the galaxy will be forced to look," she said at last. Meanwhile, Ethan was summoned again, this time not to a chamber, but to a viewing hall, a long room of transparent walls, stars stretching endlessly beyond. A human representative waited for him there, Ambassador Halle, older, tired, eyes sharp with concern. "What did you do?" Halle asked quietly, not angry, just stunned. "I walked." Ethan replied honestly. Halle let out a slow breath. "Do you understand what this means?" "It means my foot slipped," Ethan said, then added softly. "And now no one wants to let go." The ambassador studied him carefully. "You are not required to sacrifice yourself," Halle said. "If you refuse, we will demand extraction, and—" "Her?" Ethan asked. Halle looked away toward the stars. "She will face consequences," he admitted. Ethan felt a weight settle in his chest, heavier than fear, before Halle could speak again. The lights dimmed sharply, red lines pulsed along the floor. "This is not scheduled," the station voice said, tension now clear even in its tone. In the shadows of a lower docking ring, figures moved without clearance. Armor stripped of clan markings, weapons modified for silence, they called themselves the Pure Crest, a faction that believed Varelian blood must never mix, never bend, never soften. "This ends before it begins," their leader whispered, back in the viewing hall. Seilith felt it before the alarms, a warrior instinct honed by years of battle. She turned sharply. "Something is wrong," she said, at that exact moment. The station alarm sounded, low and powerful, echoing through every corridor. "Security breach," the voice announced. "Multiple hostile signatures detected." Guards rushed in, weapons raised. Ethan's heart pounded. "Are they coming for me?" he asked. "They are coming for the bond," Seilith replied. Stepping in front of him without hesitation, her body a shield by instinct, not command, the ambassador stared at her, shocked. "You would die for him already." Halle said. Seilith did not look back. "I would die for law," she said. "And choice." Explosions rippled through the station, distant but growing closer. The lights flickered. Stars outside vanished as emergency shutters closed. Ethan felt fear, real fear, but beneath it something else was rising, anger, not for himself, but for the idea that humans were always expected to step aside. To be protected, to be removed, a guard shouted orders, corridors locked down. We must move, someone yelled as they were escorted toward a secure route. Ethan glanced at Salith. Her calm in the chaos struck him harder than the alarms. This is because of me, he said quietly. She met his eyes, fierce now, honest. No, she said. This is because the galaxy is afraid of what happens if you choose to stand. Behind them, the station shook again, closer this time, and somewhere in the smoke and fire, a final decision was being forced into the open, whether Ethan was ready or not. The corridor shook as another explosion rolled through the station. Metal groaned, lights flickered, and the calm order of Helix 9 finally broke. Ethan stumbled as the floor tilted slightly. A guard caught his arm and pushed him forward. "Move!" the guard shouted. His voice tight, Salith stayed close, her body always between Ethan and the direction of danger, her eyes sharp, her tail tense but controlled. Blaster fire echoed somewhere ahead, sharp flashes of light reflected off the white walls. "They are inside the inner ring," a security voice reported. "Unauthorized Varelian signatures confirmed." Ethan's chest tightened. These were not random attackers. They knew exactly where to strike. The group reached a junction where 3 corridors split. Smoke poured from one, sparks rained from another. Before anyone could decide, figures emerged. From the smoke, armored, fast, their movements trained and deadly. "Pure crest," Salith said under her breath. Her tone cold, weapons rose instantly, guards fired, the corridor filled with light and sound. Ethan dropped to one knee by instinct, his heart hammering. This was not a place for a human worker, this was a battlefield. One of the attackers slipped past the exchange, moving faster than the others, straight toward Ethan. Time slowed, Salith reacted instantly, stepping forward, her arm raised. But the attacker was already too close. Ethan did not think. He moved. He grabbed a loose service panel from the wall and slammed it sideways. The impact knocked the attacker off balance, sending them crashing into the floor. The Pure Crest warrior rolled, stunned for only a moment, then reached for a blade. Ethan kicked the weapon away, his movement clumsy but desperate. The guard beside him stared in shock. "He is unarmed," the guard shouted. "Pull him back." But Ethan did not step back. His hands shook, his breath came fast, but he stood his ground. The attacker lunged again. And this time Ethan sidestepped, grabbing the warrior's arm and using their own momentum to throw them into the wall. The impact echoed hard. The attacker fell still, unconscious. For a brief moment the corridor went quiet. Salith turned to look at Ethan, real surprise flashing across her face. "You are hurt," she said quickly, noticing a cut on his arm. "It is nothing," Ethan replied, his voice rough. "They were going to kill you." Her eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger, but in something deeper. Something like recognition. More attackers appeared at the far end of the corridor, this time in greater numbers. "We cannot hold this position," a guard shouted. A blast struck the ceiling, debris fell, blocking one path completely. "We are trapped," someone said, panic rising. Ethan looked around. His mind racing, he spotted an open maintenance hatch half hidden behind smoke. "That way," he shouted, pointing. "It leads to the service spine." A guard hesitated. "Humans are not cleared for—" "There is no other way," Ethan snapped, louder than he meant to. For a second, everyone stared at him, then Salith nodded. "He is correct," she said firmly. "Follow him." They moved fast, slipping through the hatch just as blaster fire tore through the corridor behind them. The service spine was narrow, dark, filled with cables and low light. Alarms echoed faintly through the walls. They ran, footsteps pounding. Breathing heavy, behind them the Pure Crest followed, their armor scraping against metal, relentless. The path ended at a sealed bulkhead, red warning symbols glowing. "It is locked," a guard said, desperation creeping into his voice. Ethan stepped forward without waiting. He scanned the panel, old interface. "Standard emergency override. I can open it," he said. His fingers already moving, Salith watched closely. Trusting him without question, the door slid open just as a blast scorched the wall behind them. They spilled into a wide cargo bay, ships suspended in clamps, emergency lights flashing red. The Pure Crest poured in after them, weapons raised. Salith stepped forward, drawing her blade at last. Her stance calm, deadly, but Ethan moved again, placing himself at her side. Not in front, not behind, beside her. You do not fight alone, he said. His voice steady despite the fear burning in his chest. She looked at him then, truly looked. And something changed in her expression. The battle erupted, guards and attackers clashing, light and sound filling the bay. Ethan did not fight with strength. He fought with awareness, pulling injured guards to safety, sealing doors, triggering clamps that dropped cargo containers to block attackers. Every move bought time, saved lives. When the final Pure Crest warrior fell, the bay was silent except for heavy breathing and distant alarms. Salith stood still, her blade lowered, her chest rising slowly. She turned to Ethan, her voice quiet but intense. "You stood," she said, "when retreat was expected, Ethan." Met her gaze, exhausted, shaken but clear. "I am tired of stepping aside," he replied in that moment. Salith understood something the council did not yet see. Humans were not weak. They were restrained, and once pushed, they did not break. They chose. The cargo bay doors sealed with a deep metallic sound, cutting off the smoke and noise from the corridors behind them. Red emergency lights continued to pulse, casting long shadows across the floor. Ethan leaned against a support beam, his breathing heavy, his arms trembling from adrenaline and exhaustion. The small cut on his arm burned, but he barely noticed it. Salith stood a short distance away, her blade still in her hand, her posture steady, but her tail moved slowly now, no longer tense, as if releasing held pressure. Guards secured the area, dragging fallen attackers away, checking the wounded. Their eyes kept returning to Ethan, no longer with doubt, but with something closer to respect. A secure channel opened in the air. The council symbol flared to life above the bay. "This attack confirms our fears," the first council voice said, controlled but sharp. "The bond has destabilized order." Salith looked up, her expression hard. "No," she replied, "fear has destabilized order." Another voice joined, deeper, older. "The human should be removed immediately," it said, "for his safety and ours." Ethan pushed himself upright, ignoring the guard who tried to steady him. "If I leave now," he said, his voice tired but clear, "they win." The council paused, surprised. "You speak without rank," a voice said. "I speak as the one you are afraid of," Ethan replied calmly, "and I do not understand why." The bay grew quiet. Even the guards stopped moving. Salith turned to him, her eyes searching his face. "You do not have to do this," she said softly. "You have already done more than enough." Ethan met her gaze, his fear still there, but no longer in control. "All my life," he said, "humans have been told to wait, to observe, to avoid causing trouble." He gestured to the sealed doors. "Trouble found us anyway." The council voices murmured among themselves, distant and uneasy. "The law allows withdrawal." One voice said, "You may refuse and be escorted safely away." Ethan felt the weight of that offer settle on him. Safety, silence, a return to a small life. He looked at Salith, at the warrior who had stood between him and death without hesitation. "If I refuse," he said quietly, "what happens to you?" Salith did not answer immediately. Her jaw tightened, her tail stilled completely. "I will endure," she said at last. Ethan understood that word did not mean survive without cost. It meant loss, shame, exile, perhaps worse. He turned back to the council projection. "You call humans weak," he said, "because we do not rule through fear." His voice grew steadier with every word. "But strength is not how hard you strike." He continued, "It is what you protect when striking would be easier." The council chamber fell into full silence. Salith's eyes widened slightly, not in shock, but in something like pride. Ethan took a slow breath. "I did not choose this bond by stepping on her tail," he said, "but I choose what happens next." He straightened his shoulders. "I will not run," he said, "and I will not hide behind law or safety." The council symbols flickered, data streams flashing rapidly. "This decision is irreversible," a voice warned. "I know," Ethan replied. Salith stepped closer, her voice low, urgent. "Ethan," she said, using his name fully for the first time, "if you say yes now, there's no undoing it." He turned to her, his expression gentle despite everything. "Then do not ask me to undo it." Later, he said. For a long moment they stood facing each other as alarms faded into distant echoes. Finally, Ethan turned back to the council. I accept the bond, he said, not because of law, not because of fear, but because I choose her. The words settled into the station systems. Recorded, permanent across the galaxy, ancient laws. Shifted, not loudly, but deeply. Salith closed her eyes for a brief moment, her breath unsteady for the first time. When she opened them, she looked at Ethan not as a claimant, not as a symbol, but as a partner, and far away. Forces that had expected humans to bend realized something too late. Humans did not need permission to stand. The station grew quiet in a way Ethan had never heard before. Not the silence of fear, but the silence of attention, as if the galaxy itself was holding its breath. The council symbols pulsed slowly above the cargo bay, streams of law and record flowing through ancient systems. Ethan's words locked into history where they could never be removed. This bond is now recognized, the first council voice finally said, slower than before, under witness, under law, and under choice. A ripple moved through the guards. Some lowered their weapons, others straightened, unsure how to react to something that had never happened before. Salith stepped fully beside Ethan, no longer in front of him, no longer shielding him, but standing with him, shoulder to shoulder, equal in stance and intent. The pure crest has failed, another council voice announced, colder now. Their actions will be judged. Ethan felt the tension in his chest ease just slightly, but the weight of what he had chosen remained, heavy and real, across the station. News spread faster than sound. A human had accepted a Varelian bond by choice, not fear, not force, on distant worlds. Screens lit up with the same image. Ethan standing bloodied but unbroken, Salith at his side. Some alien leaders reacted with anger, others with disbelief, and a few with something dangerous, curiosity. This changes nothing, one distant voice protested. It changes everything, another replied. The council projection shifted, forming a single unified symbol, a rare act. By accepting this bond, the voice declared, the human species enters a new standing within interspecies law. Ethan blinked. He had expected punishment, restriction, isolation, not this. Humans are now recognized as choice-bearing partners, the voice continued, not observers, not protected assets. Salith's tail moved slowly, not in tension, but in calm approval. This ruling will echo, the council warned. There will be resistance. Ethan nodded once. There already is, he said quietly. A faint sound rippled through the bay, not laughter, not cheers, but something like respect. Medical teams arrived, tending wounds, clearing debris, the station returning to motion piece by piece. As the emergency lights faded back to white, Ethan finally felt the exhaustion catch up with him. His knees weakened. Salith noticed instantly, placing a steady hand on his arm, grounding him. You are safe, she said softly. Not as a warrior, not as a noble, but as someone who meant it. For now. Ethan replied with a faint smile. They were escorted from the bay. Not as prisoners, not as liabilities, but as figures of interest, watched by every eye they passed. Some aliens bowed their heads slightly. Others stepped aside, no longer dismissive, no longer careless. A young alien worker stared openly at Ethan, all clear on their face. He chose. The worker whispered, as if the word itself carried power. In a quiet chamber overlooking the stars, Ethan and Salith were finally alone again. No guards inside, only outside. The galaxy stretched endlessly beyond the glass, vast and uncertain. You did not have to carry this, Salith said after a long silence. Ethan rested his hands on the railing. Looking out at the stars, I know, he said, but someone had to show that we can. She studied him closely, this human who had shaken ancient law without raising a weapon. My people believed humans were fragile, she said. Ethan nodded. We are? She tilted her head, surprised. We just do not let fear decide for us, he added, for the first time. Salith smiled, small, genuine, unguarded. Across the galaxy, the story spread, not of violence, not of conquest, but of a human who stood still when expected to retreat, of a choice that forced ancient powers to look again, of a truth they had ignored for too long. Humans did not need strength to be dangerous. They needed a reason, and now the galaxy had given them one.